Tua Tagovailoa for Thursday night's game in Cincinnati does indeed have a back injury and an ankle injury, not in the concussion protocol, that investigation ongoing as initiated by the NFL Players Association, because we all know what we saw on Sunday, and it looked like he was woozy because of a head injury, but they're looking into exactly how he got cleared to play. He said he had a back injury. He's on the injury report with a back injury. He was limited in practice on Tuesday. Here he is talking about his current ailments that don't include a concussion.
It was more the back than the ankle. The ankle was just, I would say, after the game soreness when my legs got caught up under whoever it was on the quarterback's knee.
And the head is completely out of the vehicle.
Yeah, I'm fine.
What is affected by the back injury is you play not continuously needed back for everything. What aspects of quarterback play are particularly difficult or not?
Yeah, I would say everything. Having to twist to hand the ball off, having to toss the ball, having to throw the ball, every aspect of it.
Hey, I can relate, Tua. I can relate. Two things in common: left-handed and current back problem. Everything about it hurts. So we'll see what happens on Thursday night. Again, he was limited yesterday. They got the short week. They're traveling up today to Cincinnati because the hurricane is closing in on the west coast of Florida.
Right.
We'll see if he's ready to go on a Thursday night. And if not, it's Teddy Bridgewater, who played a little bit on Sunday, and we thought we'd see him for the rest of the game. So, they have a good backup in Teddy if they need to use him. But I'm sure Tua will do everything he can to be able to play. But your spirit and your will only carry you so far if your back hurts.
Yeah,
I've learned that the past 3 days.
And especially he's in an offense that we know that they move him a little bit. There's the boots and the play actions, and his movement is key because he's not like, that huge pocket passing quarterback who's just going to stand in there and, get crushed under the rush. He's not. His ability to kind of bounce around and make some of those plays is what's led him to a special season so far. He's got a lot of momentum going. He really is. He's playing as good a football as he's ever played. Last week it wasn't great, but in some key moments and key plays he was special. Yeah, that move right there, the 360 against the Ravens, that's going to be hard to pull off if you got the back issue. There's no question. And then, you couple that with the fact that, we talked about this a little last week. The one thing that's been lost in the shuffle with Cincinnati and the offensive struggles and not able to protect Joe Burrow is their defense has been damn good. It really has. So this is not going to be an easy night. They can rush the passer in Cincinnati. They can cover guys. They got speed in the secondary. So that'll be interesting to see. But, Mike, we haven't talked about this. I'm still like I get it, the head injury thing. It's just still crazy. I mean, I played football, for a pretty good amount of time. Watched my dad play for a ton of years. I'm obsessed. You're obsessed. I've never seen anybody wobble or do anything like that with a back injury. That to me still all screams of head injury. Very weird how that all went down. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out here in the future.
Yeah, when you get back trouble, and I can attest to this firsthand.
Right.
Nothing gets loose. It's tight. The problem is it's tight and you can't move.
Yeah, you're like Frankenstein.
It's not that you go wobbly.
Right.
It's that you're like the Tin Man
after
being stuck out in the rain.
Right.
And every movement is excruciating. It doesn't feel like you're Gumby. It feels like you're Gumby who's been stuck in the cryogenic chamber. Isn't that where Antonio Brown froze his feet? And you're completely frozen solid and you can't move. So that's I'm going to defer to the investigation. I'm still waiting to hear from the league in response to my multiple questions from Sunday about how the team physician and the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant came to the conclusion that the gross motor instability demonstrated by Tua Tagovailoa was not related to a neurological condition. Because that's what you have to conclude in the locker room during the evaluation to clear him and return him to play. And is it possible you can have a head injury that causes you to be wobbly for 10 seconds and then you're perfectly fine in the locker room? I suppose.
Yeah.
But
haven't seen it much.
it was hard to watch.
Yeah, you
that
were
video.
worried for him. It was worried. You were
Yes.
worried. It was like Patrick Mahomes back in the Browns playoff game. You're like, whoa, he doesn't even look right. At first it was the head wobbly bobblehead. You start to worry about, damn, I hope his knee doesn't give out and he hurt himself with his knee. And yeah, nothing looked like right, even right there. I mean, head wobble, weird step, head wobble
Here
again.
He's trying to walk it off.
Whoa.
I'm fine. Here it
Goes
is. I'm
to
fine.
all
Whoa,
fours.
I'm not fine.
Right, goes
Then
to
this,
all fours
then
and then
this.
has to be held up.
Guy holds him up.
Right.
Guy holds him up.
That's
Yeah.
just that. Yeah, and listen, I understand the human element here. I do. This is where it's going to be always very hard, I think, in the NFL. I don't care, doctor, neurologist, whatever. These guys are around them as humans. They see the passion of them wanting to get back on the field. I would lie. I know that. If I had something, I would. I'd lie every time. And I'd definitely lie if we were, we got a chance to be 3-0, and I got a guy at Teddy Bridgewater who would love to come in and play for me. I would lie even more.
Who's already said it.
Right.
Who already, remember when he was signed?
Right. I've been told
Dropping
things.
hints?
Yeah, right. So that's that. All those elements lead to a man going, I want to play. I know my bell got rung, and I might not be 100%, all over things mentally, but I'm close enough, and let me go. And he certainly wouldn't be the first quarterback in the history of football to deal with something like that.
There was a time when the Steelers were playing the Seahawks in Seattle, and I think it was 2013, possibly.
Yeah.
Sometime in that time frame. Ben Roethlisberger tapped out.
Right,
at a
I
time
remember
when
that.
Nobody knew he was suffering any type of potential concussion symptoms, or the Steelers used to call it concussion-like symptoms.
Yeah.
They never wanted to call it a concussion. They said he had concussion-like symptoms, but he tapped out, and he was praised. And I remember it was over-the-top fawning of Ben Roethlisberger. This is part of the culture change that the sport needs. Look, he can get away with it because he didn't have somebody that could come in and take his job.
Yeah, he's Big Ben.
There's a small handful of guys who can get away with that. Tua cannot get away with that. He's not thinking, hey, if I miss time due to a concussion, my job will still be there.
No doubt.
That's not the case. So I still think a lot of that goes on. I don't think the culture has changed, and I think we saw it play out on Sunday. And you're right, Chris. Guys are wired to keep playing because it is a ruthless sport. Ed Reed gave that advice publicly to Lamar Jackson. Hey, the Ravens love you now. You get injured, they're a business. They're a business. Look at all the stuff Jerry Jones is saying about Cooper Rush.
Right.
And trying to speak into existence a quarterback controversy.
Seriously.
They want the best guys on the field and the best guys at the cheapest price. It's all things equal, we'll go with the cheaper guy.
Right.
So all of those factors come into it. So yeah, I would do the same thing. And it's the passion for the sport. It's
Right.
not letting anyone else on your turf, in your job, do your thing. And that's why we need to, and again, I'm going to defer to the investigation, and I look forward to seeing what the end result of it is. They've never had a disagreement, the league and the union, on one of these investigations. They've always come to the conclusion where they agreed that there either wasn't a violation of the protocol or there was. I'm going to keep my mouth shut and wait for it to play out. But we know what we saw, and I think that's why I haven't gotten answers to my question.
Yeah, it's very odd.
They know what they saw.
Right.
We all know what we saw.
Right.
We know it when we see it, and we saw it.
Yeah,
Chris.
I think that's right. That's right. Like I said, it's been a lot of football games I've watched in my life, and I think we could ask a lot of other, all-time greats or whatever what they think, and they're going to go, yeah, I've never seen anybody be in that state because of a back injury. Now, I don't doubt that maybe his back is sore and he's dealing with something there for sure. The other issue with Tua is, hey, we're seeing the play come along. Health is the issue. This is the second question that people worry about with him. He's a smaller guy, so that the wear and tear of the season does catch up to him. This is something he's going to have to battle. I don't doubt that the ankle and all that are bothering him, certainly. So we'll see where it goes, but I do think it's going to be kind of interesting to see where this investigation goes when all's said and done.
The other reality is this, and again, I can speak to this from my own personal experience right now. If his back was sufficiently injured to cause him to do that wobble and they hold him up, how was he able to come back and play? How did it resolve? What treatment did he get in the locker room that allowed him to come back and play?
Right.
Because if it's at that point and you come back and play for a half of football on a day like that, something doesn't add up. And that's why the NFLPA exercised their prerogative to initiate an investigation, because to the average reasonable person, something doesn't add up here. So let's go find out what happened and see if the policy was or wasn't complied with. Here's Mike McDaniel, coach of the Dolphins, on Tua's status for Thursday night with his back and ankle injuries.
This much I know about Tua. Him and I's relationship is strong. He actually called me at like 10:50 last night. And I'm like, dude, is everything okay? No, I'm just checking in on you. I'm like, all right, that's fun. And so, and just him talking to me, I can tell in his voice he's literally going to do everything he can, and in his power. So collectively, we, I'll be basically, I know that he's going to do everything he can to play. So I'll know if he doesn't play that it literally was not possible, and we're just taking measures accordingly for Teddy beyond that. But happy with the way he's so far progressed, and feel very optimistic because of how he's going about it.
It basically confirms, Chris, everything you said about playing when you have concussion symptoms. The guy's going to do everything in his power to play, and that's an admirable trait, but it butts up against the broader issue of player health and safety. Sometimes, whether it's concussion, whether it's back, whether it's fractured rib cartilage, sometimes the guy's desire to play needs to take a back seat, and there needs to be somebody who stands up to him and says, you're not playing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the reality of the current, status of the NFL. We're trying to, the lawsuits, the knowledge of the brain, the contact of the brain, limit the amount of times you have a concussion. All this science is out there that, yes, of course, this affects, where you are later in life. So the NFL they're trying to protect, players from themselves, meatheads like, me, you, whatever, from just going, oh, the hell with it, I'll do it. But it's to me, it's a fine, or not a fine line, but it's a tough subject. It is. And I understand that, the NFL and the NFLPA, they're doing the right thing long term. It's just hard at times to tell a grown man, hey, you're not going back out there. I mean, the day I was losing my spleen and bleeding internally and literally dying and bleeding out, I wasn't coming out. I didn't care no matter what was said. Oh, wait, I fainted? Okay, well, give me an IV and I won't faint for a little while and let's keep playing. It's just the way you are. So that's where it's tough. It really is. And as you see, even though we all think he had a concussion and blah, 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 he played good enough in the third and fourth quarter for us to sit there and go, well, he won the game. His cognitive skills must have been good enough for him to read the coverage on 3rd and 22 and hit a bomb down the middle to Jalen Waddle, right? So, there is something to that, but yeah, it's tough. It is tough, and I understand both sides. That's really where it is, and it's just I don't think the players are going to win in this matter, very many times.
The reality is, if you have one head injury and you're playing football and you suffer that second one,
that's when it can be
in
bad.
The immediate aftermath of the first one, that's when it can be bad. And
right.
Someone sent me last week. There was a high school player who died recently because of something like that. And it happens, and I don't know what the current numbers are, but I remember back when the NFL was first ultra-sensitive, as it should be, to head injuries, it was 10, 11, 12, 13 a year, which is a staggering number. I mean, it's a big country, but still, it's alarming. And the NFL obviously trying to set the standard at the highest level of the sport that will trickle down to the lower levels. But I know from being at a high school game when my son was playing, and we were in some town in Ohio, and my son's team was getting the crap kicked out of him. And his quarterback, I could just tell he was getting banged around, thrown around. It's like somebody needs to check him.
Yeah, he's not,
because he is getting obliterated.
Right.
And there's nobody like the whole culture of high school football. There's no one there to stand up and say,
right,
hold on here. Hold on. Timeout. We got to check this kid out. It's just it just isn't even a thought. And it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I hear you.
And there isn't that apparatus in place. And look how hard it is even when the apparatus is in place to get a guy off the field.
Exactly.
So it's still a problem. I respect the NFL for trying to set the standard, but there's a huge disconnect between that level and the high school level, and I think that's why we see from time to time that a kid with his whole life in front of him is dead because that culture hasn't changed to the point where the alarm goes off and the kid gets yanked out of the game.
Yeah, the alarm's just gone off in the NFL here recently. The college football alarm just went off, a few years after that, where that's new. It has not trickled necessarily down to, high school, little league where they watch that. They're trying to take the head out of the game the way they're teaching it. But, I go to my little boys' football practices. It's great how they're doing that, certainly. But, yeah, the rest of those protocols, they're certainly not in place. Definitely not. And a lot of the times, it's almost like a badge of honor. Oh, you got your bell rung, huh? Oh, yeah, I remember when I used to do that. That's great. Yeah, you're like, yeah, I see 3 people. Okay, cool. But yeah, we're trying to advance here. We are, but it's a good thing overall. But it is tough. Hey, I was watching a clip last night of my dad. Right, it was on Twitter. This guy that does these Giants tweets and all that. He's getting crushed in the first half. He comes out in the second half, and Madden's like, he wasn't the same ever since he was wobbly on those big hits he took. But they gave him some smelling salt, and I think he's coming too. And he looks like, that's where we were 30 years ago. It's good to see the advancement, but it's still men who want to play and don't care that much at the time. And that's where it's a tough balance.
There are so many old games on YouTube from the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, and some of the hits in there are so brutal, and the guys just get up and keep going. That was what they taught the receivers. No matter how hard you get hit, you get up and act like it didn't affect you.
Right.
Get up and act not
don't
not
show
so you
them.
don't get removed from the game.
Right.
You just don't show them that they hit you. Don't show them that they hurt you. Don't give them the satisfaction as they did give you a concussion. Get up and walk back to the huddle and get ready to do it again. And, thank God it's changed at the NFL level. It needs to change at all levels. And the problem is, at the lower levels of the sport, the players are only as safe as their coaches are willing to make them. And you get some meathead, frustrated, I'm going to be Vince Lombardi, and it just, the priorities get out of whack. And there are guys like that, coast to coast, sea to shining sea. I've heard them. I've seen them. I played for one of them once upon a time, but that was back when the culture was different. Everyone was that way. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.